Hello, I'm Grandmaster Dragan Šolak, and I am going to share my thoughts with you about my game from the third round of Turkish Championship. I played with Burak Özalp, and I decided to start this game with d4. I didn't find too many games of my opponent in the database, and I decided just to play some positional opening and not to enter my main openings because I was afraid of possible preparation. I just noticed that he plays King's Indian, and I decided here to play one tricky line. After e5, normally white castles most often, but I decided to go bishop e3 with idea after knight g4 to play bishop g5, and after f6 to return to c1 with my bishop. Somehow many players with black pieces play here knight c6, which is not a great move. After d5, knight e7, white can play h3, and after knight h6, now h4. Well, white didn't actually lose the tempo because now the thing is that black cannot push h5 and white is going to push h5, and this will create serious problems for black. For example, let's say black plays something like a5, I push h5, after g5 I probably play knight to h2, then okay, probably there's nothing much black can do. He goes something like bishop d7, I will put my pawn to g4, then I will simply play f3, in some moment come with my king to g2, for example, bring my knight to f1, bishop will go to e3, and then I will slowly build pressure on queen side. And this position is probably already lost for black because his pieces are terribly placed. Knight from h6 cannot join the game at all. Knight on e7 is not much better, bishop on g7 is really terrible, and white will slowly push b3, a3, b4, open the queen side, of course prepare for this, and black will lose the game. I already won several games like this, and I will also say that in this position it doesn't help black to play something like bishop g4. This doesn't stop h5 push, and this position is also very bad for black. Now he cannot take with a bishop because of bishop takes h6, and after bishop h6 just g4, white wins a piece and his position is winning. And well, g takes h5 is hardly better because now black's pawn structure is totally destroyed. I'm not sure what is the best way to continue. Knight from f3 should go somewhere, white will win back the pawn and his position is close to winning. Well, this is what happens in case black goes knight g4 here. But today my opponent Burak played knight c6. As much as I am familiar with the theory, this is not considered to be a good move, because after d5, knight e7, white can play normal position, typical Mar del Plata variation, with one small difference. My king is still on e1 and I don't have to castle if I don't want. I might choose to castle later, but I don't have to do it, and black's attack is not very dangerous with my king still on e1. I played knight d2 now. This is the perfect King's Indian setup for white. Of course, in so many lines white tries to play bishop e3 or bishop g5 and then put the knight to d2. Normally it's not possible and black tries somehow to disturb this plan, but here I managed to do this, and this position should be better for white. I must say that I'm not sure how exactly white should play. I'm sure there are many games here, and I myself played this position with black pieces several times, and the move I would play was c5. Then white probably goes g4, and I remember a few games where I played knight takes g4, which is not a good move. After bishop takes g4, black pushes f5. White has now several good reactions. One of them is, for example, to take on f5 after g takes, to go just, I'm not sure, bishop f3 maybe. And once black pushes f4, white can take on c5, and then he has very good control. He can put his knight to e4, push pawn to d6, probably something like this. Well, I'm not totally sure, to be honest, how exactly white should play. I remember I played one game with Ivan Ishevich. I had black pieces, and he used move h3, I took on g4, and here I played h6, a tricky move. My idea is obviously to play g5 and then bring my knight to f4, and if white takes on h6, black can take. After rook takes, there is a very nice move, rook takes f2. And now if white takes with the king, queen f8, check, black will take on h6, and black's position is, well, I'm not sure if it's better, but it's good for sure. And after rook f2, white can try to insert rook g6, but after knight takes g6, queen f2, queen comes to h4 with check, and bishop will take on g4 with tempo, rook will come to f8, black's position is winning. Okay, this was some opening trap, but Ivan Ishevich didn't fall for this. He just played some safe move. I really don't remember now. Maybe something like f3, and after g5 he brought his knight to f5. I put my knight to f4. It was something like this, and it was a complicated game. Well, in today's game, Burak decided to play knight e8, which is probably a better move. Now it doesn't look that this position is too bad for black. I mean, if I castle, I will just enter the normal Mardel-Plata line. Maybe one small difference, black's knight is on e8. Maybe better square for this knight is d7. I'm not sure about this. Probably it is. But it's not some very big difference, at least not for me, because I'm not familiar with these positions from white's point of view. And I definitely didn't want to allow my opponent to sacrifice the queen side and push pawns and try to checkmate me. So I decided to just protect my center with f3 once black pushes f5, and to try to develop some initiative on the queen side. That's why I pushed c5. I'm not so sure about this move, because black's knight on e8 is very well placed. It can recapture on d6 anytime. Black also has option to push c6 sometimes, so I think I would think twice now before pushing c5 in my next game. Burak played f5, which is a normal move, and I just protected my pawn with f3. I expected now something like f4 and then g5, but black doesn't have too much of attack, and this is actually not a very good move. Black might take on c5, this is one option, and after I take, now he can put knight to d6. This is a nice square for the knight. His bishop might go to h6. Well, I was not sure about this position, to be honest. Maybe I have some advantage, but it was not feeling so great. Black has some play, and I was not sure how to neutralize it. And Burak played another good move, I thought, king h8. He's just moving his king away from sensitive location. freeing a square for his knight, because knight on e7 is usually a problem piece in this position. It cannot jump anywhere. So Burak is preparing transfer of this knight to f6, which is a really nice square. Or he might play knight g8 and then bishop h6. Once I take on h6, he will not take with knight, but he will check on h4 with his queen and then take queen h6. So now I wanted to take on d6 and see how he will take. I didn't want to leave this choice for him for later. I also considered h4 move here, but I was not sure that this move was great. It was a possibility. It was a possibility, but I was worried that maybe black will push in some moment something like this. Maybe once my pawn is on h5, and that later I will have a weak pawn actually. Well, okay, it was playable, of course. But I decided to take on d6, and I was hoping my opponent would take recapture with pawn, which somehow looks logical, and maybe this is what King's Indian players generally do. But he played a better move. He took with knight, and now I regretted a bit my decision. I saw now that move knight c4 that I had planned for this position was not so great. I understood that black would be able to take on c4 or e4. I'm not sure what first. Something like this. And here he has knight f5, a very nice move. And if I take this knight, then queen h4 check, and he takes my bishop on c4, and position is totally unclear. If I don't take the knight, well, this knight is going to come to d4 or d6, and black's position will be excellent. So I cannot play like this, and now I was not sure. I can take on e4 with knight, then knight comes to f5. From here this knight can jump to either to d4 or to d6. I thought black's position would be okay here. And I decided to castle because I simply didn't see other good move. Maybe rook c1 was possible, but I wanted to somehow play faster and more normal moves. And I expected him to push f4. Well, c6 was maybe another possibility. Black is using the fact that I don't have enough control in the center. And if I take on c6, he wants to take with knight and put this knight to d4 then. This was a possible way to play, but also what my opponent played was interesting. f4. I didn't see a reason to go to c5. Black can play b6 or not. So I just decided to go to f2, normal move for this position. And after g5, which is also a move I expected, I wanted to play knight c4 and exchange his strong knight on d6, which is defending his position. And now I was really expecting him to take on c4 to make my bishop go away from very important e2 square, from where it is preventing black to push g4. And now black has maybe some different ideas, but generally he should try to push g4. I'm not sure if he should start with h5 or something else. And well, I was worried in this position. Black wants to go rook f6, rook g6, push g4, and he'll have a strong play on the king's side. And well, I never played similar positions with white, and I'm not really sure how to defend here. And I was worried. Also, it's good for him to take on c4, because after bishop takes, c-file is closed, and I will need more time to organize play. But Burak decided to push h5 immediately. I was happy with this move. Now I immediately took this knight on d6. He took with the pawn, he has to. And I just played the rook to c1. And now I want to make the following idea. I want to put my knight to b5 and then to c7. I will attack his rook, and once he moves the rook, knight can go to e6. It is very, very important for white to eliminate black's light square bishop. After that, the attack on the king side is not very dangerous. So black cannot play a6. Okay, he can, but after knight a4, he's going to lose the bishop anyway. He cannot stop knight b6 now, and my position is much better. Burak played bishop to d7. He cannot push g4, of course, this pawn is for free. So I played knight b5. I was thinking that it was okay just to take his bishop, and after this I would have a really safe position, and it would be difficult for black to defend. Of course, it was possible for him to take on b5 and try to defend this position, but now he cannot push g4 anymore, and I don't think he can stop my play on the queen side. So I was happy with this position. And he decided not to give the bishop but to play rook f6. Well, he really decided to give me much material on the queen side. I can choose now what to take and how to take. But I actually didn't want to take anything. My main idea was to put the knight to e6. That's why I played queen to b3. Now I want to go knight c7, and after rook moves I will play knight to e6. Maybe I can also think about taking the pawn on b7 or pawn on a7, but this was the main idea. Burak played rook g6. He's trying to prepare g4 push, but it's obvious now that he's a bit late. After knight c7, there's no way he can sacrifice the rook. Sometimes it's possible in similar positions, but here black is a bit late, so he had to move the rook. And now I had many possibilities here. Knight e6 was one of them, queen b7 was other possibility. I chose to take on a7. This looked like the best move because my bishop on f2 I thought was not so great anymore. Before black moved his rook from f6, this bishop was not too bad, because after black pushes g4 I can even play bishop to h4. But now this bishop is not so great, and once black pushes g4 he wants to push g3 as well, and sometimes it's useful to move this bishop from f2. It is important, of course, that black cannot take the knight because of bishop b6, and white wins. So, well, it's normal, I guess, to try to push g4, although black's position should be lost by now. Now it was possible to take on b7 as well, and ignore black's threats and ideas, but I somehow wanted to eliminate every counterplay, so I played knight to e6, and now my king is really very, very safe, because even if black has two possible ways to play on the king side. He can either take on f3. When my bishop takes on f3, everything is super safe, and if he pushes g3, then I can just play h3. I mean, I don't have to react at all, but minimum I can do is play h3 once his bishop is cut off. If not, if bishop on d7 would be working, then black often has idea to sacrifice the bishop on h3, but now it's no longer possible, so white's position is winning. And Burak tried here, move queen a5. Well, it was maybe also possible to go to g8, but I can just take the pawn on b7 and there is no attack for black here. Queen a5, okay, it was a normal try. Now his idea is maybe to get to d2 with the queen. For example, if I go something like bishop b6, he can play queen d2, attacking my rook on c1 and my bishop on e2, and now if I take, he might take with the knight, also attacking my bishop on b6. Okay, this position might still be good, but I was not sure and I didn't want to give this chance to my opponent, so after queen a5 I decided to take on c8 immediately. Bishop c8, this is normal move. Bishop is also protecting b7 square, and I just returned to f2 with my bishop. Now I'm a pawn up, there are no threats at all, and Burak tries last chance. He comes to d2 with his queen. It might look a bit dangerous on first sight, but actually there is nothing much going on. And here at first I was thinking about moves like queen d3, black takes on b2, and I can take on g4 and then take one more time. Black can also take on a2. Now material is same, but of course white has much better position. But I understood that it was possible just to move the bishop, and I played bishop c4, and the position looked simply winning for me. My next move is going to be rook d1, and I will chase black queen away. Then probably I can exchange queens, or I can play many different things. And if black takes on f3, I just take with my queen, also attacking the pawn on h5. So Burak pushed to g3, and of course I took this pawn, and after f takes g3 I played bishop e3. This looked safest. Other moves were also possible, but I didn't want to let him to escape to h6 with his queen. Of course this position is winning as well, but I wanted to eliminate every chance. Queen a5 is the only move, and here I think I made a mistake. I spent quite some time here. I spent more than 10 minutes to find the most technical way, the safest way to win the game, and I'm not happy with my decision. I wanted to exchange queens. I was just thinking how to do it. I can play queen b5, I can play queen b6, I can play queen a3. All these moves should be enough. But if I play queen b5, I didn't like that black would take, and then just take the knight on e6 as well. When I take, he takes with the rook. Now I don't have any extra material, and my position is of course much better, but black can go with his bishop to h6 maybe on the next move, and I started to think that maybe he would have some drawing chances. Queen a3 was another move, but here I didn't like the fact that my pawns are not doubled. I mean, it's almost like losing a pawn. Still, I knew my position was winning, but I finally decided to go queen to b6. This looked like the best move, and after black took, I took with the bishop. He played bishop h6, and I was expecting this, and I just thought my position would be winning. Pawn on d6 is really weak, and I thought I would play something like rook d1. That's the move I played. Then play king f1, king e2, rook h1, because I'm afraid of some play maybe with h4 and h3. Black bishop might come to e3 one day, and I wanted to bring my king to e2. It was feeling safer like that. Now I would think here about bishop c7 immediately, and after check I can just go to the corner. It does look a bit dangerous, but actually there's nothing black can do, I think, and maybe this was a better way to play. Okay, I decided to play rook d1, and Burak, having only seconds on his clock, found an interesting move. He played rook g8, and now he wants to bring his knight to g6. He will push h4. Well, suddenly it's not so easy to win the game. I understood that I should probably play bishop c7 and take the pawn on d6, but I didn't want to give my opponent some counter chances. Still, after thinking a lot, I decided that I had to do this. And now he checked me on e3. I thought it was best for him to play knight g6 after bishop d6, just to push h4. I thought this was the most useful move. And well, okay, I thought my position was winning. Of course, I have 2 extra pawns, and still black has some play. He will put his bishop to e3, and his knight might come to f4 one day. First he will take on e6 maybe. He might push h3 also at some point. I felt there was still some danger. But Burak checked on e3, and I didn't want to go to the corner. I played to f1, and now he decided to give his bishop. Well, I simply didn't spend time here. Actually, it was good to consider move bishop takes d6. I just took his bishop. I forgot to analyze other moves. I think it was better to take on d6, better and safer. But I didn't even consider this move, which is a mistake. I took on e6, and I saw that now I want to take the pawn on d6, and if black goes rook c8, I saw I would be able to take on d6, and after rook c4, bishop takes e7. This position looked winning. I checked a bit rook c2, then I can check, and after king h7 I push e7, and there's nothing much going on for black here. He has one check and that's it. So in this position he did take the bishop. Okay, his position is really lost. After bishop takes e7, he played bishop d4. He wanted to close the file for my rook, and at first I wanted to push f4 here, because I saw it wouldn't be possible for him to take on f4 because of rook takes d4, rook d4, and bishop f6 winning. But I thought after f4 maybe he would be able to play something like rook c6, and after f5 maybe rook c2, then some check on f2, and who knows, maybe something. Okay, I was sure the position was winning, but I found an easier win. Bishop f6, black should go to g8 of course to be able to stop this pawn with his king, but now I have bishop takes e5, simple combination. Black has to take, then I check, and after king g7 I just push my pawn. All that black has here is to check a few times, and Burak decided to resign immediately. Okay, now let's check the position with the help of Houdini. So knight c6, d5, knight e7, knight d2, knight e8. Houdini already thinks position is much better for white. But okay, I'm not so sure. Machine often underestimates this long-term plan with pushing kingside pawns. c5, possible, maybe not best. f5, f3, normal. King h8, I'm sure it's a normal move. C takes d6, machine thinks it's okay. Knight takes d6, probably better of two moves. And knight c4, a move that machine doesn't like so much. I don't see it in the list of best moves, but I don't like bishop g5, machine's top suggestion. I don't understand this move, to be honest. What do I want to give this bishop? After, say, h6. Let's check a bit. Bishop g5, black goes h6. Bishop h4. Well, I'm just helping black to push his pawns. I don't think this is a very useful thing to do. So I don't like this. And okay, castle now becomes number one move. f4, he had options, but this is normal. And g5. Well, I know the machine really doesn't like this position for white, and very often machine thinks white is completely winning while the position is not that clear at all. Knight c4, one of the normal moves. And now knight c4 probably was much better, yes. This is the first real mistake that my opponent made, h5, and after this I already think my position is winning. I take on d6, and I think rook c1 is a really good move. He played bishop d7. And okay, machine is not afraid of course of this attack, and machine just plays queen d3 and tries to take the pawn on d7 and so on. But I think differently in such situations. I don't want to give counter chances to my opponent, because I know that this plus 1.33 can turn into plus 0.2, then plus 3, and then black will push g4 and g3 and something will happen and suddenly it will be minus 5. So I have seen such things happening many times, and that's why I prefer just to jump to b5. And of course machine gives much less here for white. After bishop takes, b5, bishop takes, and a6. I was planning to go back to e2 so that I stop g4 push. I can even play h3 if necessary later. And well, I didn't think it was possible for black to survive here on the queen side, but maybe it can be. Maybe it can be. So maybe this is what he should have played. Probably it is. Instead he played rook f6, and then queen b3 is okay. I like this still more than knight a7, computer suggestion. Rook g6, knight c7 is okay. Rook c8, and bishop a7 is very good. Okay, black cannot take, so he pushes g4. Now queen b7 is top suggestion for the machine. Machine is really not afraid at all, just wants to take as many pawns as possible. But the thing is, I was sure if I would exchange queens, I would slowly win the game. One extra pawn and better structure was more than enough for me, so I didn't want to go after any more pawns. Well, but I must admit that this position probably wins for white as well, because in critical moment my knight will come to e6 and stop black's attack. Okay, I jumped to e6, which is not bad. And queen a5 is the best move according to Houdini. Rook takes c8 normal. Bishop t8 takes c8 normal. And bishop f2 is the best move. So I can be happy with my play until this moment. Queen d2. And now, for some reason, bishop c4 is worse than bishop b5. I actually like my bishop to be on c4 and protect my knight on e6. I didn't want even to give a pawn, because maybe soon I will exchange queens, and I just wanted this e6 to be protected. I don't understand the reason because of which bishop b5 is better move. There might be something a few moves later. I also considered the queen b5, but here I got a bit scared of bishop d7. After queen d7, queen e2. Well, the machine calculates that I win here. Queen e7, I really do. Knight f8 is threat, and black doesn't have time for g takes f3, so I win. So it was possible to play queen b5 probably, but I'm quite okay with my move. I don't think it was bad. It doesn't give chance to black to complicate matters. g3, h take, f takes g3, and bishop e3. Good. Queen has to go back to a5. Now let's see. Top suggestion by machine, bishop b6. I considered this move, bishop d6. I thought black would go back to d2. I can go rook d1, but I thought he would go back to h6. It looks silly, but I didn't even want to let him do not even this. Maybe I should have bishop e3. Queen has to go back to h7. This really looks good for me. Maybe I should have played like this. Okay, so this was... I'm not happy with my decision here, and I think this was a mistake. Although I'm sure my position is winning still. Black played bishop h6. Maybe rook d1 was not great either. Yes, here I started to play a bit worse. And g8 was probably a good try. And I played now bishop c7 because I understood it was not trivial anymore, because black has some place, so I just decided to go for the complications, and I knew I was winning, but still I was afraid of it. Let's check a bit what happens after knight g6, bishop d6, h4. How do I win? For machine it's very easy, plus 2.5 no matter what I play almost. But for me it started to look a bit scary. Bishop coming to e3, knight coming to f4, then some h3 and so on. I think I gave my opponent some play. But after this he checked on e3, king f1 was good of course, and he took now on e6, pawn takes. Well, bishop d6 was possible as well of course, and maybe simpler, yes, definitely better. This was a mistake. I simply recaptured without thinking. I should have spent a few seconds and I would have understood that bishop d6 was the best move. And okay, after this Burak played rook c8. Okay, position is winning after bishop d6, rook c4, bishop d7. Black is lost. Let's just check if the combination was correct. Bishop f6 check, king g8 and bishop e5. Bishop takes, check, king g7 in e7. Okay, how do I summarize this? Opening was interesting. My young opponent was not afraid. He wanted to attack my king and try his chances, and he made one mistake, I think. Well, maybe this opening is not so great after all, because it seems that it's less favorable than normal Martel-Platte variation. And I think he made a mistake when he didn't exchange on c4. It would be much better for him. He would have more time, it would be easier to push g4 for him, c5 would be closed, and I think this would give him some chances. After he pushed h5 instead, I exchanged on d6 and played rook c1, and I think that my position is already winning at this point, or very close to winning. And then okay, I didn't play so bad, and when the position was really completely winning, I allowed some mistakes. I let him reorganize his pieces, and if he played knight g6 later and pushed h4, he would have had some chances to attack my king's side. But still, my position would be probably winning with good play. So I'm not too happy, not unhappy. It was a normal game.